Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of
Conspirio.
I'm your host, Addison Rose.
And I'm growing my hair out.
Is that like a legal name?
Yes.
Or is that just like a fun fact
That's
about
my
you?
legal name this week.
Oh, I like how you change your name every week. Because last time it was Nervous.
P. Diddy did it, so.
He did a lot of things, allegedly. Well, thank you very much, Miss Your Hair Out. This week, before we get into our topic, we kind of wanted to do like a little PSA for everyone. The fact that our podcast is called Conspirio doesn't mean we're going to talk about conspiracy theories all the time. We wanted to combine the words of conspiracy theories and serial killers just so we can talk about two of our favorite topics.
Subjects.
Yeah, but also talk about any topic in between that we're interested in. And we don't want to be subjugated to one, like Ghost. So yes, this week we're not going to be hitting the conspiracy gas pedal so hard. I mean, there is a slight one with this, but I don't want that to be the focus like it may or may not have been for our episode 1 of Jeffrey Epstein. This week, we want to talk about an idea, a subject that initially gained a lot of attention and a lot of recognition when it first happened. We were all enthralled by it, but we feel recently that it's kind of, I don't want to say losing its gas, but it just doesn't seem to be talked about as much as other things going on. And the woman that we're going to talk about had an amazing life, a horrible ending, and so let's just jump right into it. We're going to talk about the life, the tragic events that led to the untimely death of Sandra Bland. So, my co-host, growing your hair out, if you wouldn't mind doing the beginning of it, that'd be great.
Sandra Annette Bland was born February 7th, 1987, in Naperville, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. Sandy, as she was known to her friends and her family, was the fourth of 5 sisters, so an all estrogen house.
Oh,
like
goodness.
My home.
Yeah, so relatable.
Relatable.
I guess, for her, not me, unfortunately. But yes.
She attended Willowbrook High School in Villa Park, Illinois, where she ran track, played volleyball, was a varsity cheerleader, part of the marching band, and a member of the Languages Honor Society. After Sandra's untimely death, Willowbrook's...
She did everything.
She did everything.
Jesus.
You could barely catch me in class.
Christ. How about that?
After her death, Willowbrook's Black Organization for Student Success, BOSS, hosted a memorial in her honor and dedicated a tree with a plaque in her honor, which I thought was really sweet.
That's nice.
She attended college in at Prairie View A&M University on a band scholarship. That university is located outside Hempstead in Waller County, Texas. There, she was a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, and she was also recruited as a summer counselor for 3 years, played in the marching band, and volunteered for a senior citizens advocacy group. She graduated there in 2009 with a degree in agriculture, which is still a lot more than I did in college because I never graduated.
I mean, she was a Renaissance woman. She
did it all.
That's crazy. And great for her.
Yeah. Sandy came to Texas to make it better with her constant work with the community, only for Texas to then fail her, disgrace her, and not bring justice for her death. Sandy, after graduating with her degree, then returned to Illinois. She got a job in administration for Cook's District, a food service equipment supplier. Once Sandy found out that one of Cook's biggest account was the penitentiary system, she realized this job didn't align with her beliefs, and she shortly left. She left because she knew the role that the penitentiary system has played in the injustice of Black Americans. For example, in Texas is number 3 in the United States for prison admissions, and the United States is a country where Black Americans are incarcerated at a rate at 2.3 times the rate of white people. Sandy did what most people wouldn't do. She left the workplace because it didn't align with her moral compass, which is braver than any reason that I've ever left a job. She was that type of person. Sandy was brave. She was uncompromising with her beliefs. She was a fighter. Shortly after Sandy would, so shortly after she would leave Illinois to come back to Texas, she would go on to tell her mom, "My purpose is to go back to Texas and stop all the unjust against Black Americans."
I mean, that's almost like prophetic, right? Like she was.
It's like
No.
almost like she knew something was gonna happen.
Yeah,
Like she knew she would bring change somehow.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it shouldn't have been like this.
definitely not. And I don't think that she meant it like this.
No.
But I guess if there is a silver lining to any of this, the fact that I think she accomplished her goal, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we're now talking about this, is that we don't want that to die, right? Like we don't want that her life wasn't given for it to just stop being talked about.
Exactly. January 2015, Sandy began posting videos called Sandy Speaks on Facebook, where she would talk about many subjects, including police mistreatment of Black Americans. She was described by her friends and family in the community as a civil rights activist and part of the Black Lives Matter movement. After leaving Cook's, she was due to start a temporary job on August 3rd, 2015, with Prairie View as a summer program associate. She also wanted to start on her master's for political science. This
Oh, so
woman had drive.
Yeah, she was going to change it from the inside.
Exactly.
Too. She wanted to.
She had goals.
Commendable.
On July 10th, on the way to buy groceries, a task that seems innocent enough, something that you do, something that I do, something that we can all relate to, she was pulled over for a minor traffic violation by State Trooper Brian Encenia. The exchange was said to have escalated, resulting in Sandy's unjust arrest and unjust charge of assaulting a police officer. The arrest was partially recorded by Encenia's dash cam. A witness and also Sandy herself recorded as much of the arrest as she could.
And being that involved in all those topics and she knew what to do. Like she knew.
As a person of color, it's incredibly important to always record these type of situations.
And that's something I've never even thought of doing, or even having to feel the pressure of the need to do that. And that's just something that it is wild, and it's something that everyone should have that feeling. Everyone should feel like they shouldn't have to record. There should be a level of trust, and obviously that's not there, and that's not there especially for people of color. And yeah, it's terrible.
And when the bystander video was released, you can actually hear Sandra thanking the bystander for recording. So that's something also that we should get in the habit of. If we see something going on, to record it.
Yeah, it's your
to
duty.
Stay there. It's your duty.
She was being arrested, right? So
Yeah.
she couldn't record anymore. So the fact that and if that person wasn't recording,
who knows?
we would have like 30 seconds of the interaction, or how not the full. Once she gets pulled out, we wouldn't see anything else.
Exactly.
Wild.
After Sandy's arrest, her bail was set for $5,000. While she was there, they allowed her to call your person to get you out.
Right.
She ended up calling a bail bond place, and the bail bonds person called her sister, and I believe they told her sister that they needed $500, which her family was pulling together, and they should have gotten it by Monday.
Right, 10% is usually standard for bail bonds and stuff like that.
On July 13th, 2015, 3 days after being arrested for assault on an officer after a minor traffic stop, Sandy was found hung in a jail cell in Waller County, Texas, her death being ruled a suicide. Shortly after Sandy's death, authorities reviewed the dashcam footage and placed Encenia on administrative leave for failing to follow proper traffic stop procedures. After the news of Sandy's death, activists went to the jail, and they would light candles, they would do vigils, and they would actually project her Sandy Speak videos from Facebook.
Great for them. Keep it up. I hope they're still doing that.
So after everything went down, District Attorney Elton Mathis started proceedings where he gathered a grand jury to decide whether or not they were going to press charges against Encenia, and also to whether or not basically find if anyone was culpable in the jail for her death. And I watched the documentary Say Her Name on HBO. So while I was watching the documentary, the family's attorney, his name is, I have it right here.
I was going to say Elton was
okay.
So that wasn't her lawyer. That
was the district Canon Lambert. So he put it in words that explained it really well. He put it in words as the district attorney gathered this grand jury, and the district attorney can basically do whatever he wants at these proceedings. He can present all the evidence or none of the evidence. He can make the case in his words or in what actually happened. So, and the family's attorney, Canon Lambert, wouldn't be allowed to go in there and present his case for the family.
Right.
So
it's whatever he discloses.
Yeah, it's whatever he discloses.
Because if he discloses everything, that would just give more fuel to the family yeah.
And while I was watching while I was watching the documentary, they actually had Elton on there, and at some point he was talking about the perception of racism in the department and in Texas, and he was like, he literally said, maybe it's because we talk a little slower in the South that's their perception. And I'm from Texas, so I can make fun of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Maybe it's
not because we talk slow in Texas. It's because Texas is racist.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't see the equivocation of slow talking and racism. I mean, there's obviously there's racism everywhere, right? I mean, I know she's initially from Illinois, and even Chicago has had their issues with racism, not only in police departments and that sort of thing, and it's not like they talk slow up there. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
That's the worst cop out.
Cop out. It's a cop out. We like puns. Badum. Sat down on the spaceship. Okay.
So December 2015, the grand jury declined to indict the county sheriff and the jail staff for a felony related to Bland's death. The following month, Encenia was indicted for perjury for making false statements about the circumstances surrounding Sandy's arrest and fired by the DMV. September 2016, Sandy's mom settled a wrongful death suit against the county jail and the police department for $1.9 million, and it also led to some procedural changes. In 2017, the perjury case against Encenia was dropped in return for his agreement to permanently end his law enforcement career. In 2019, Sandy's cell phone video became available to the public and Sandy's family for the first time. The video was obtained and shown by Dallas news station WFAA. This video was not available during the civil trials, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have made it available to the grand jury.
Well, of course
or
not.
If
you're allowed to disclose whatever you want. Yeah, why would you?
Exactly.
Unless you're an honest human being.
So I want to close out my half of the segment by saying I have a couple of questions for Waller County Jail. Why was she in a cell by herself, and why were there no cameras in that area? Why were there only photographs about her on the floor and the scene around? They took pictures of everything except her hanging, right, which I thought was weird. And to the media, why did the media focus on them finding THC in her system? Because a lot of the articles that I found would just talk about her previous minor traffic violations, which is things we all go through. I know I got a ton of speeding tickets when I was younger.
And actually, I think one of the side note, what I think a beautiful part about our podcast is we don't look at each other's notes at all. We want all of our reactions to each part that we're researching to be absolutely genuine and as if we're hearing it for the first time, because we are. So I actually talk a lot about what you were just mentioning, so hopefully I can I'm not gonna say answer those questions, but just dive a little bit more in detail of those questions and how they influence everything. So I'm very glad that you brought that up.
The media heavily focused on just that there was some THC in her
Sure.
system and that she had been pulled over a couple times before, which that could be me. Like, I've been pulled over for having like an expired sticker, for speeding, for broken taillight.
Sure.
When I was younger and I would like work like a long work shift, I would take off work and I got pulled over probably 7 times because I would forget to turn my headlights on. I mean, these are things that it shouldn't have led to her death. Like, minor traffic violations should not lead to arrests and being incarcerated and then having like a shady death.
I mean, and most. I mean, let's be honest. Most crimes shouldn't lead to death.
No.
You know, obviously.
I wish the media.
If you hurt or do anything to children, I mean, they can take you out right there. As far as I'm concerned, I don't even need a trial. Just that's fine with me. But even stuff like, and I will say, by the police specifically. You know what I mean. If someone's coming in, breaking into your house just to steal a TV, does that person deserve to die? No. But if they die, I totally understand where the homeowner is coming from. Personally, we can differ on that. But especially traffic violations. There is no, and even with,
I want to know why.
Even with THC, there's no well, she's a criminal.
Yeah,
what happens to no, that's
what
not
I
right.
found out about her school life and her college life and why she left her previous job was really hard to find and dig up.
Mm-hmm.
No one in the media focused on her life and how smart she was and how bright she was and how she dedicated herself to her community and how she dedicated herself to her people and how she wanted to bring change. And that's really sad. And it's not like we're being plugged by HBO Max or anything, but I really recommend. But if
they
want to, I do really recommend the documentary on her life and her arrest and her untimely death. It's called Say Her Name, and it's on HBO Max.
Yeah, I watched it too, and it's
streaming on Hulu, I think.
If not Hulu, get on it, man. Stream it. If not, look.
Netflix.
Idea. Get on that. No, it's a really good documentary. It was really done well. And that's coming from someone with a film degree. Oh, my God. Obviously, I'm doing a lot with it. No, but it was really good. It was really done well. And I think, not that we're a documentary review podcast.
My high school diploma agrees.
But what I thought they did very well is, yes, they had an angle like most documentaries do, but they also, what did you say the district attorney's name was?
The sheriff, Elton Mathis.
Yes, they even put him on there, and that's
they
where you obviously got that quote, and like, well, we did what we do.
All that. He gets a chance to, he has this platform. They gave him
the opportunity.
And he's like, well...
We talk slow.
We're not racist. We just talk slow.
Whatever. But it was really good. Please check it out. If we missed anything or if we made any mistakes, please
let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Instagram,
email
TikTok,
us at conspirio@gmail.com.
Absolutely, that one. Please
call us out.
But don't actually call us. I won't pick up. Anyway,
ew, who picks up the phone anymore?
Not this guy. I really don't. So I'm glad. I think that transitions to what I'm going to talk about. And it's an unfortunate part of any untimely death is that everyone wants to bring out the trash, right? They want to air out the dirty laundry to somehow make it justified, and it's one of the most.
I'm sure they'd find a way to justify my death instantly.
Please
to try to justify.
Please don't be try to make this like a prophecy, like we were talking about earlier. I don't want to have to do a video on this too.
Episode 3.
I'm gonna be the prime suspect
we lost the
in
co-host.
This. I'm not gonna do it, but. I'm gonna get taken in first. I don't want none of that juju on me. Don't do it. It's like she's on recording. Okay, so let's get into it. Right.
You just injected yourself in this investigation.
They always go for the. Anyway.
For the white men.
We kind of do it, Anyway, they're gonna take that as a soundbite. We kind of do. It's because I talk slow. Okay. So before I dive into it, I want to share something with them that I shared with you, and I typically, as I mentioned in our first episode, that I make jokes at very uncomfortable situations because I don't know how to deal with my feelings, and it makes it very hard for me because it was easy to do that with Jeffrey Epstein, right?
He's a piece of shit.
Garbage human being.
And all his homies were pieces of shit, too.
It's easy to crack jokes at that guy. And who gives a fuck if it hurts your feelings? What I said about, pedo Epstein, right? But with her, I'm almost reluctant to make any joke whatsoever because I think that would be a disservice and disrespect to her. And unfortunately, what she died for. Even if, she didn't mean to or not. So all the jokes I'm going to try to make, other than the ones I've already made, are going to be for that piece of shit police officer in Senia. So hopefully...
So please tell me you know what's going on with him right now, because he should be in jail.
Absolutely. So going into my side of it, before we dabble our toes in the conspiracy theory of it, I want to talk a little bit more about what I mentioned previously of people airing dirty laundry to try to make it seem like it was justified. So she had 10 traffic-related encounters with police in Illinois and in Texas. So that's not 20, that's just 10 total. 10 isn't even egregious or anything like that, right? So she was she was stopped 5 times for driving without insurance, 4 times for speeding. Woo.
Probably done 6 for me.
And once for driving while intoxicated and a marijuana possession. Right? Not advocating for driving under the influence at all. But guess who's done it? This guy. And do you deserve to die for that? No. But do you deserve to be taken to jail for it? Sure. Sleep it off, whatever, but it's not supposed to be a
life and death situation.
Yeah, even though it can be if you do drink and drive, which is why I'm taking a car service that is not either Luber or Ooft. I combined them. Anyways, so yeah, look, yeah, she had some traffic violations. Whoop-de-doo. That doesn't mean she deserves to die. So I want to go into Officer Insignia a little bit too. So he had one of his what do you call it?
Reputation?
He had a reputation of performing pretextual traffic stops
and pre-ejaculation.
Taking your word for it, not me. Are you just assuming?
Yeah, if you're that fucking angry for no reason,
sure.
You pre-ejaculate.
Absolutely. But before what happened to Miss Bland, he had issued almost 1,600 minor tickets in less than a year, all with pretextual traffic stops.
That quota.
So what that means is he would see, like what you mentioned before, a broken tail light, and then use that pretextual traffic stop to then search the car and try to find other things, right? So he was known for doing this, right? And so on this day when Sandra gets pulled over, he is driving incredibly fast and riding her ass, like almost bumper to bumper, right? And so he doesn't even mention if she did something before this happened. So he was just driving fast on her. Her seeing a cop speed up to her, she automatically thinks that, oh, there must be an emergency.
Something wrong, yeah.
I need to get to the side of the road so he can keep going. Doing her just part as a civilian, right? If someone needs help. Which I've done,
and I'll hear the woo, and I never assume it's me, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, right. So she pulls over. Now, unfortunately, she didn't use her blinker when she was going over to let him pass, or so she thought, right? So immediately, woo, didn't use her blinker to switch lanes, and that was his reason for pulling her over that day. And so this man provoked her in a way. I mean, and I don't think he was following that, what is it, the 2-second rule that you're supposed to do in between cars? You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember?
Yeah, no, I think a car in between. I think that's what it's called.
I think it was
That's how they taught me. They told me always keep a car in between you and the car in front.
Back in my day, it was like you need to keep like 4 horses. Yep. So
while you were talking slow?
While I was talking slow, 4 horses. So, and I think what the documentary also did well, that they used the bystanders video, and that person's name that I
do they want their name out there?
You know what? That's a good idea. I'm not going to say it.
You can find it if you want to look for it.
True. So,
fuck Brian and Cinia.
And with the dash cam footage that was released, and the bystanders, you can actually hear him hit her.
That's right.
Like he
slaps her.
Yeah, he slaps her. So she didn't want to put her cigarette out, which she's not legally inclined to do.
It's her car. She's smoking in there. What's it to him?
And what worst case scenario? Well, hold on. The worst case scenario actually happened. What should have been the worst case scenario is she gets a ticket for not using her blinker. Sucks. It's a shitty day, but you know that was it.
Still would have been unjust.
Yes. Comparatively, no, but yes, still would have been unjust. But even if it's not using your turn signal, you don't have to put your cigarette out anyways. I mean that's not part of the program. Anyways, so there was a lot of back and forth, and please go watch the documentary. Can't keep plugging it enough. Was really good. A lot of back and forth was, man, put out your cigarette. No, I don't have to. That went on for a few times back and forth. He decided to get all high and mighty, opened her door, reached in, tried to arrest her, tried to get her out of the car. You need to get out of the car. She's like, no, I don't have to. What's the cause? Why and all this stuff, right? He supposedly hits her, and then gets her, slams her on the ground, hits her head, and I want you to remember that, because this is part of the conspiracy that may or may not have happened, depending upon which avenue you want to go down. Slams her head, does the dirty knee in the back that killed George Floyd, and
here's the thing, like she was being compliant as well.
Right.
She wasn't fighting back or anything.
No.
He just slapped her, dragged her out of the car.
Didn't like her quote unquote attitude, which nowhere does it lawfully state you need to be polite to a police officer. Yeah. Now, you don't need to attack him, which is what she unfortunately was accused of.
If anybody else would have done it to anybody else, that would have been considered kidnapping and assault. It's only because he's a police officer he gets to get away with it, going up to someone's car, pulling them out, dragging them, hitting them.
Common theme to most police accusations and horrible things that happen to it. So she gets arrested, like you mentioned, and she was only in jail waiting for bail for 3 days. And in those 3 days, when she talked to her family, they said she was in good spirits. She was about to get the money, and then all of a sudden, 3 days later, July 13th, at 6:30 in the morning, she refused breakfast, which I thought was interesting. I'd be hungry then. But that morning, she decided to refuse breakfast.
To be fair, from research... from research and from...
So you've read.
So I've heard from associates.
Right.
Breakfast is like coffee and a honey bun.
Right.
And in the area where...
Oh, you know who I remember hearing that story from?
Who?
Nervous. You remember her from last week? she mentioned something.
It actually wasn't her.
Oh, wasn't Nervous?
Yeah,
it might be our next week's guest.
So I don't know what their breakfast is, but I can't imagine it being any better than a honey bun and coffee. So.
Right. Sometimes it's all you need.
It's not like they were giving you, like, they had an omelet guy there. She was like, no, thank you.
But the main part of this wasn't the fact that she refused breakfast. It was the time, right? So it's 6:30 on July 13th. She refused breakfast, and then... via an intercom that she had with, I don't want to call it the police lobby or whatever, the guards, that she wanted to know how to make a phone call. And what's interesting about this is that she's made phone calls previous to this. All she had to do was punch in her code in her jail cell in order to make this call, which she had done several times before. So
this is something they said happened.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, but there was no report that she made a phone call after that.
I also, when I was reading a couple of articles, I remember reading that they told the family she made 21 phone calls as well.
No records.
Yeah, and they were like, to who? And they're like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, do you have the phone? Oh, we don't know which phone she used.
Right. So they told her how, and then at 9:07, so not even 3 hours later, a little over 2.5 hours later, she was found in a semi-standing position, hanging in her cell. Now, I'm going to pause right there. I know how last week we talked about Jeffrey Epstein and hanging from the bunk, and how you have to do the whole lean-to thing or whatever, and he was about 6'2", 6'3", if I remember correctly. She was 6 foot. She was a very tall athlete, woman, so she would have had to have done a similar thing hanging from a bed with a trash bag.
That's right.
They found her, and as you mentioned, no pictures, which is wrong, but the same thing happened in the Epstein case. I just love the parallels that happened between them. Who deserved it.
I have
and
trouble
one who
wondering why they would even leave a trash can in there, because I was looking at pictures and I saw like a picture of a trash bin.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think they would just leave that in someone's cell either. There's got to be
we're not talking about
procedures.
like one of your like little computer
No, we're
trash
talking
cans.
about
Like,
those big ones. Yeah, like the barrels.
Right. So put a pin on that trash bag thing. I'm going to come back to that later. So they found her supposedly hanging from a trash bag in a semi-standing position, right? A week after her death, so this is on July 20th, the authorities released the video from a motion-activated camera in the hallway outside of Bland's cell. Now, the fact that you only have a motion-activated camera in this jail facility is atrocious. If no one's moving, it doesn't record. So anyways, there was no any movement in or out of the cell from 7:34 to 9:07 when she was discovered. So now we're moving to July 28th. So 8 days after that, that's when the authorities released the several hours of videotape showing Bland at various times in her jail stay, having her mugshot taking and making phone calls. That's the big one. She actually had a cellmate that was adjacent to her cell, saying that Sandra sort of seemed a little distraught and a little out of it, right? Which is completely normal if you get your head slammed into the pavement. Coming from someone who's had 7 concussions
and I'm
himself,
not get medical attention, because I didn't
Probably
read
not the
anything about getting any medical.
probably not the best. Yeah. She thought her arm was broken, head slammed into the pavement. That's a minor concussion, at best, if not a major one. And we'll continue that. We'll continue that a little bit later. So, and I also wanted to talk. I'm gonna put a pause there and jump. I also want to talk about the THC that was found in her blood system, and I thought this was not that smoking pot or having THC once again means you should die from a police officer. Here's what the toxicology report actually had to say about that. So the initial toxicology report found, and I quote, a remarkably high concentration of THC from someone who has been in jail for 3 days. Remarkably high. I don't know what specifically those numbers were, but in order for it to be remarkable, it's got to be a lot.
Well, in the documentary, the family had another person review all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that it wasn't actually remarkable, that it was just like someone that had been using, like if they've smoked for a long time.
Right, but yeah.
But not like that she was smoking a doobie in there.
Right, no, absolutely. So according to that toxicology report, the
It wasn't
Waller
like-
County Assistant District Attorney said that it was more likely that Bland had ingested a very large amount of marijuana prior to her arrest. Now,
How many marijuana suicides do you hear about?
absolutely none. But what it was, I mean, that's atrocious. That might be. So the toxologist suggested that either she had access to marijuana in the jail cell, which not likely either, or was consistent of it being in her system, as you mentioned, over periods of times, an avid user, which is absolutely fine as well. And I don't want to hear people being like, well, if it's illegal, don't do it, just stop. Well, we might do a video about that one day, but I'm not taking that argument here. No one should die like that, especially if you have THC in your system, or if that's your justification.
Well, I think they were
that shit out of here.
I think they were also trying to say, well, she was high, that's why.
No, exactly. They're trying to discredit her
Yeah.
and discredit her life, and I'm not having that. That's bullshit. And I'm not even gonna apologize for that. So talking about more about the actual crime scene when she died, and I think this is kind of where I'm going to split the roads once more into the conspiracy theories that I've read, and we'll decide once again if it's conspiratorial material, right? So you have the idea that she hung herself, right? And let's dive into that a little bit. If she actually used the trash bag to hang herself. What's very remarkable about it is that no fingerprints at all on the trash bag itself. Absolutely none. So that means obviously the prisoners don't change their own trash. They have people come in who obviously wear gloves to do that.
I'm assuming they don't have a trash.
Well, yeah, but even in the documentary that we saw, there was a picture conveniently taken of that big trash,
that bin in there.
That bin in there, right? So whether or not that's a standard procedure, I can't really say. But the trash bag itself, no fingerprints at all. The inmates, for the lack of a better term, they're not provided with gloves, right? So if she took the trash bag out of the bin, her fingerprints would be all over that.
Okay.
You would have to tie the noose, you'd have.
It's not like she's gonna be careful about
it. You have to
it.
throw it around, right? Yeah, you're not gonna make sure you scrub it clean with what? Like, what would she even scrub? So I mean, it's that's the biggest one for me. There are a couple of other inconsistencies in there, but the fact that once again no fingerprints on the bag itself, I think is absolutely ridiculous, right? And so I don't think she hung herself whatsoever. But another kind of almost the same avenue, but also jumping off a little bit from that, right? Being someone who, once again, who has had 7 concussions himself, right? I'm very familiar with, obviously not major head trauma, but head trauma, right? Typically, with head trauma, you're going to see, I don't want to say results, but you're going to see, symptoms within the first 6 weeks, depending on how major it is, or 6 months. Those are usually your 2 time gaps if anything's going to happen to you. Like after my 5th concussions, about 6 months later, I had a seizure, right? Crazy. Don't want to get into that, but that's just kind of how that works. So like, how can something even happen later? But this happened obviously within 3 days of you're having your head slammed, or that's what I'm going to be arguing, right? So it's also possible that due to her head injuries, she could have seized aneurysm, whatever, and then died of that. This man should still be charged with bare minimum aggravated assault, involuntary manslaughter, something like that. Not just perjury. The fact that he was just charged with perjury, which was the whole reason she got arrested
And
in the first
and
place.
they dropped it.
And dropped it. Right.
And
Well, yeah.
they dropped it.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I don't want to say luckily. That's a horrible choice of words. But they did take him to civil court and won. I want to say, if I remember correctly,
1.9
million. Yeah, 1.9 million. Not worth a life at all. But no, definitely. So then you get into the whole conspiracy of her mugshot. Her mugshot looks like she's laying down. Due to the gravity, her hair is going back. Her nose is pushed up as you would if you're laying on your back, right? And so they think her mugshot was actually taken on the ground, which, if you're going to set this whole thing into motion, if they did find her dead in the cell, and if she was distraught, like I mentioned earlier, that's clearly sounds to me like head trauma issues, right? Being, in and out and that sort of thing, that hazy, not knowing where you are sort of mentality. So if we're going to go down that route and say maybe something happened to her from the head trauma, of course they're going to cover it up as much as possible.
Of course.
And obviously I'm not saying that's what happened, but those seem like the two most obvious avenues. Either that he directly killed her, or indirectly and just found her like that. So either way, it just seems like it was covered up, because guess what? If because we saw in that documentary, every cop was wearing gloves. Every cop. So of course their fingerprints aren't going to be on the trash bag, because they're the one who tied the noose.
But how do you? How would you hang yourself and not leave fingerprints?
No, exactly. Exactly. And that's why, just like the Epstein case, they didn't take pictures of how the body was found. They took the pictures afterwards with her body laying on the ground. And I mean, whenever we chose her for this episode, I didn't think there were going to be so many parallels between like the staging of the death, allegedly, or not. And I thought that was almost like a crazy coincidence. But once again, you have someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who's a big pile of dog shit, and a real and a real promising young woman who, in her own right, would have changed the world. And hopefully, with y'all's continued activism and support for her, not even for Conspiratorial, but for her, can change the world in her name and speak as how Sandy would have spoken.
I wanna also say I wanna read a quote from Sandy Speaks that I have here as well. Here's for one of her videos. In the news that we've seen as of late, you could stand there, surrender to the cops, and still be killed. And that was true in her case.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Say that one more time, if you don't mind, just to let it sink in.
In the news that we've seen as of late, you could stand there, surrender to the cops, and still be killed.
Yeah. I also want to speak about just some of the political and bills that have been passed in her honor since her death, and which sounds on paper like a great thing, right? But the thing about laws and the thing about bills and all that stuff is that they only work if they're actually put into action, right? So I'm going to use this as a way to, obviously, as she knew, and that she knew her rights, and I want you to know your rights as well. So in Texas, the Senate Bill 1849, also known as the Sandra Bland Act, went into effect September 1st, 2017, mandated to change corrections and police policy. Once again, it sounds great on paper, but just adding new policy doesn't make a lick of difference if it doesn't actually go into effect. And it goes over a whole bunch of things: de-escalation training for police. Police officers are to complete comprehensive racial profiling training and 40 hours of de-escalation training. Now, what, 40 hours? That's a week?
I like how it's
that's a work week?
de-escalation training, like as if it's the people that are escalating these situations.
Right, yeah. Switching lanes without a turn signal. Really getting the bad ones out there, guys. Jesus Christ. So yeah, and there's a bunch of other kind of good things that came about of it, and it really just made me sick as well reading about it, because they were trying to, all this has a lot to do with like mental illness and stuff like that, which they also try to paint her as having a mental illness, and that's simply not the case. Like, worst case, I mean, the only thing she might have been suffering from was a concussion. I mean, that's not a mental illness. That's an effect.
They had an intake form where they asked if she had been suicidal, and she had put no. But about a year ago, she had a miscarriage, and she said she felt suicidal then. So just because,
which is understandable.
Yeah, well, she felt comfortable enough to be honest in the intake form, not knowing that they would then weaponize that against her.
Yeah, and they were just doing things to see what would stick.
Yeah.
Versus the drugs and the speeding tickets. Oh no, she was crazy.
Oh yeah, it's the intake form, and it wasn't us. We just because we talk slow.
Yeah, and it. I just really want, once again, us to use this as even if it's a small step, but just don't forget about her.
Where's this asshole right now? Do we know?
Once he got fired, and
he just went on to live his life.
Yeah, I mean, once the perjury charges dropped, he had, and even the civil court wasn't against him. It was against Waller County.
Department.
Yeah, it was against the department, right? So, yeah, I don't know where he is now. Probably has a different name. I'm sure he got whatever his equivalent of witness relocation and all that, whatever for him, and I'm sure he's just probably in a smaller city of Texas where they talk even slower and there aren't people of color anywhere, so he can just do what he wants. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. She was a bright woman, so it's a shame, and we need to keep
her name alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And keep talking about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, I know there was kind of a conspiracy slight avenue to this, but I don't even, I brought it up just because she doesn't deserve that, right? They want to label her as all these things, and she doesn't deserve that. So the evidence is there. Keep bringing it up. I don't know where he is, and it doesn't matter. But we need to hold the people that we pay taxes for responsible, and it's enough.
And just firing them isn't holding them accountable for their actions.
No, if she gets arrested for not using a blinker, he should be arrested for, at minimum, perjury, I guess. But like I said, manslaughter or anything like that. So I'm just, it's ridiculous. So that's all I really had. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No.
I'm gonna do the shameless plug. You can once again email us at
conspirial@gmail.com.
You can find us on our Instagram at conspirial_podcast and our TikTok at conspirial. And once again, last final words, speak as Sandy did and will continue to do. So that's our week's episode.
Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us comments. If we suck, please let us know. If we're awesome, please let us know. Be gentle.
And any topics you want us want us to cover.
Any ideas, please?
Yeah,
let us know.
We have a list of what we want to do. But that's only our two brains. There's a million brains, hopefully, out there, and maybe I'll have better ideas than we do. So, good night, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.